It told me the house was gone. Just rubble, just ash. But I remember the laughter that followed us through the halls, the mirrors that showed me as a child, the cages filled with children who never left, and the clown. God, the clown, I saw its teeth. I felt its hand on my shoulder. That's how I imagined it. The trauma makes you see things, but I know what I saw. Because sometimes when the lights go out, I still hear it. The bouncing of a ball, the giggle in the dark, and the whisper that never leaves me. We're still hungry. We thought it would be easy. Break in, grab what we could and get out. That was the plan, but plans don't mean much when the house itself feels like it's waiting for you. The porch sagged under our weight, the wood soft with the rot, the windows were covered in grime, but I swear I saw movement behind them, a shadow, shifting, watching. Inside, the air was thick, damp, the kind of smell that clings to your clothes, to your skin. We moved slow, careful, every creak of the floorboards echoing like a warning. At first, it was just a house. Old furniture, dust, photographs yellowed with time. But then we found the locks. Heavy chain that bolted across doors that led to the basement. Scratches along the wood, deep grooves like something had tried to claw its way out. That's when I realized we weren't the first ones to come here. And maybe we weren't alone. It was me, my brother Caleb, and our friend Jessa, who was 16, stupid, desperate. Caleb said he'd heard rumors of a stash of cash hidden inside. Jessa swore she'd seen something worse, a clown's face in the upstairs window, grinning down at her as she biked past. We left it off at first, but then we remembered the stories. The missing kids, the smell, neighbors swore drifted from the house at night, so we went in. The door wasn't locked. It groaned open like it hadn't been touched in years. Inside, the air was thick, damp, heavy with rot, the kind of smell that clings to your throat. The floor sagged under our weight, wallpaper peeled in long strips, curling like dead skin. Every step echoed too loud, like the house was listening. We told ourselves we were just imagining it, that the shadows moving along the walls were tricks of the light. But then we found the first door. It was chained shut, heavy iron links bolted into the frame, and scratched into the wood over and over were the words, "Don't let him out." That's when Caleb stopped laughing. The front door was locked, but Caleb knew how to pry it open. The wood groaned as we slipped inside. The air was thick, heavy, like the house itself hadn't breathed in years. The first thing we noticed was the silence, not just quiet. Silence, no hum of appliances, no creak of pipes, just the sound of our own breathing. Then came the smell, rot, decay, and something sweet underneath, like candy left too long in the sun. Jessa gagged, covering her mouth. Caleb told her to shut up, but his voice cracked when he said it. We moved deeper into the hallway. The wallpaper was peeling in long strips, curling like dead skin. Family portraits lined the walls, but the faces had been scratched out, every single one. And then we heard it, a sound from upstairs. Not footsteps, not exactly. More like something dragging. We crept through the living room. The furniture was covered in sheets, but the shapes beneath were wrong. Too tall, too narrow, one looked like a person sitting upright. Jessa reached out and pulled the sheet away. It was a mannequin, dressed in a child's clothes. Its glass eyes stared at us, its painted smile too wide, and in its lap sat a red balloon. The string was tied tight around its wrist, like it had been placed there on purpose. The balloon bobbed slightly, though there was no draft, no movement in the air. Caleb whispered for us to keep moving, but I couldn't stop staring. The paint on the mannequin's lips was cracked, peeling, and beneath it I thought I saw teeth. Then the balloon popped. The sound was sharp, deafening in the silence, and from somewhere deeper in the house, something laughed. We froze. Then we heard it. A floorboard creaking upstairs. Caleb whispered, "He's here." But the sound wasn't footsteps. It was bouncing, like a ball hitting the floor again and again. We looked up. Dust rained from the ceiling with each thud. And then, laughter. High-pitched, childlike. It didn't sound playful. It didn't sound alive. It sounded hollow. Like something trying to remember what a child should sound like. We should have left. We should have run. But something pulled us deeper. We climbed the stairs, each step groaning under our weight at the top. The hallway stretched long and narrow, lined with doors. Every door was painted with a number, 1 through 7. From behind door number 3 came the sound of the bouncing ball. Caleb reached for the knob. It turned on its own. The door creaked open, slow, like it was savoring the moment. Inside, the ball rolled across the floor, stopping at our feet, and then we saw them. Children. Dozens of them sitting in a circle on the floor, their faces pale, their eyes hollow, each one holding a balloon. They turned their heads toward us in perfect unison, and they smiled. Doors swung open. Inside was a child's bedroom. Toys scattered across the floor. A bed neatly made. And in the center, a boy sat cross-legged, tossing a ball against the wall. He turned to look at us. His eyes were gone. Just black pits oozing something thick and dark. He smiled. And then he vanished. The ball kept bouncing once, twice, 3 times. Then it rolled to a stop at Caleb's feet. None of us moved. None of us breathed. And then from the corner of the room, a voice whispered so close it felt like it was inside my ear. "One of you stays." The ball rolled across the floor and stopped at my feet. I bent to pick it up. It was wet. Sticky. When I pulled my hand back, it was covered in blood. Jessa screamed, because the bed was no longer empty. A body lay there now. A child, pale, lifeless, its mouth sewn shut with black thread, and the stitches pulled so tight the skin around them had torn. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. And then the child's chest rose. Slow, shallow. And though its mouth was bound, I swear I heard it. A voice inside my head. "You shouldn't have come here." He stumbled back into the hall, slamming the door. That's when we heard him, the old man. His voice was low, gravelly, echoing through the house. "You shouldn't be here." We froze. The sound came from everywhere at once. "You shouldn't have come." The lights flickered. When they steadied, the hallway had changed. The doors were gone. The walls lined with mirrors instead, and in every reflection, we weren't ourselves. We were children, younger, smaller, and behind each of our reflections stood the clown. Its teeth were too long, its eyes too wide, and it was smiling. I wanted to look away. I couldn't, because in the reflection, the clown's hand was on my shoulder, and I swear I felt it. The mirrors shattered, shards rained down, slighting our skin. We ran, slipping on the glass, until we found a staircase leading down. The basement. We didn't want it to go, but the house left us no choice. The basement was worse. Chains hung from the ceiling, cages lined the walls, and in each cage was a child, or what was left of one. Some were skeletons, their bones gnawed. Others were fresher, their eyes wide, mouths open, and silent screams. And in the center of the room sat the rocking chair. The old man was in it. But he wasn't alone. She was there too. The pale woman, standing just behind him, her hands resting on his shoulders like she belonged to him or he belonged to her. The old man's head tilted toward us. His eyes were milky, blind, but His smile told me he could see us just fine. And when he spoke, his voice was the same one we'd heard in the wharf. He shouldn't have come. The pale woman leaned closer, her grin splitting wider, and the children in the cages began to move. On his lap sat the clown. Its painted face cracked, its grin stretching wider as it rocked back and forth. The old man's head turned toward us. His eyes were milky white, blind, but he smiled. "They like to play," he rasped, "and they're always hungry." The clown giggled, its voice high and shrill. "Time to eat." The cages rattled. Metal clanged as the children inside began to move, their hands reaching through the bars, their mouths opening in silent screams. But it wasn't silence anymore, because the sound came next. The tearing, the gnashing, the wet scrape of teeth against bone. And I realized they weren't reaching for freedom. They were reaching for us. The cages burst open. The children inside crawled out, their movements jerky, unnatural, their mouths opened, revealing rows of jagged teeth. We ran. The basement door slammed shut behind us. We were trapped. The air grew colder, the light dimmed, flickering until the room was nothing but shadows and the sound of claws scraping against the floor. Jessup pounded on the door, screaming, but the wood didn't budge. Ayla grabbed my arm, pulling me back, his eyes wide, wild. And then we heard it. Not the children, not the old man, the clown. Its giggle cut through the dark, high-pitched and sharp, bouncing off the walls until it felt like it was inside my skull. And when the light flickered back on, it wasn't in the chair anymore. It was standing right in front of us, weighed down by the haunting events being recalled. Caleb grabbed a rusted pipe from the floor and swung it at the nearest child. Its head snapped back, but instead of falling, it laughed. A wet, gurgling laugh. Jester found a lantern and smashed it against the wall. Flames erupted, licking the damp stone. The children shrieked, their skin blistering. But they didn't stop. They kept coming. Their hands clawed at us, nails broken, skin sloughing off in strips, their mouths open wide, rows of jagged teeth snapping inches from our faces. Caleb swung again, screaming, but for every one he knocked back, two more crawled forward. The fire spread across the floor, smoke filling the basement, but the old man just sat in his chair, rocking, smiling. And the clown was gone until I felt it. A hand, small, cold, wrapping around mine. I looked down, and the clown was standing there, its painted face inches from my waist, its grin stretching wider than it should have been. It whispered, high and shrill like a child's lullaby twisted wrong, "You can't burn what's already dead." Heavy with the weight of distant memory, we bolted through a side door, deeper into the basement. The air grew colder, the walls narrower. We stumbled into a tunnel. Dirt walls, roots hanging from the ceiling, and at the end of the tunnel, a light. We ran towards it. The tunnel opened into a cavern, and there it was, the heart of the house, a pit, deep and black, filled with water that rippled though there was no wind. Balloons floated on its surface, red and glistening, and from the water rose the clown. Its body stretched impossibly tall, its limbs too long, its grin splitting its face in half. The old man stood beside it, his blind eyes glowing. "This is where they go," he said. "This is where they stay." The water churned. Hand that broke the surface, small ants, dozens of them reaching, clawing, dragging the balloon beneath the black. And then I saw their faces. The missing kids. Their eyes were gone, their mouths sewn shut, and one of them was smiling at me. The clown lunged. We scattered. Caleb swung his pipe, but the clown caught it in its teeth and bit through the metal like candy. Jessa grabbed my hand, pulling me toward the pit's edge. "We have to end it," she screamed. I didn't know what she meant until I saw it. At the bottom of the pit, beneath the water, were the bodies. Dozens, hundreds, all the missing children. their eyes opened in unison, staring up at us. The clown shrieked, his voice splitting the air. The galloons burst, spraying blood. The old man laughed, his voice echoing through the cavern. Caleb charged, tackling the old man. They fell into the pit together, the water churning, the children's hands dragging him down. The clown screamed, thrashing, its body twisting, breaking apart. The cavern shook, the walls cracked. We ran. The tunnel behind us collapsed, stone and dirt raining down. The air filled with dust, choking us as we stumbled forward. I looked back once. Just once. The pit was swallowing itself, the water boiling, the balloons bursting one by one, and in the chaos, I saw Caleb's face just for a moment, before the hands pulled him under. The earth closed, and the house on Ashmore Street was gone. The tunnel collapsed behind us. Dirt rained down, roots snapping. We burst into the basement, flames still raging. The children were gone, the cages empty. But the clown's laughter followed us. High, shrill, endless. We smashed through a window and tumbled into the yard. The house groaned, its walls buckling, its roof caving in. And then it was gone. Nothing but rubble. We thought it was over. But as we staggered into the street, blooded and broken, I saw it. A balloon floating from the wreckage. And tied to its string was a scrap of cloth. Caleb's shirt. I wanted to believe it was just debris, just fabric caught in the wind. But the balloon rose higher, drifting into the night sky. And as it did, I heard him. Caleb, laughing, not the way he used to, not human, but laughing all the same. It began the day my parents moved us into that house. I remember the smell of dust and old wood, the way the floor groaned under every step. They said it was a fresh start, but even then, I felt something watching. The rooms were too quiet, the air too still, and in the corner of my new bedroom sat a rocking chair, worn, faded, like it had been waiting. At first it was just little things. The chair swaying when no one touched it, the faint creak in the middle of the night. My parents laughed it off. Old houses make noises, they said. But then I saw the doll sitting there in that chair. Its dress yellowed, its glass eyes fixed on me. I told them it wasn't mine. I told them I didn't want it. They swore they'd thrown it away. And yet, every time I looked, it was back. That's how it started. That's how it all came to be. It started the day we moved into that house. My parents called it a fresh start, but to me, it felt like stepping into someone else's life. Someone who had never really left. The walls carried the smell of dust and mildew. The floors groaned under every step like they resented us for being there. In my room, against the far wall sat a rocking chair, old, splintered, waiting. At first it was only the creak of wood in the night, the faint sway when no one touched it. Then came the doll, dressed in yellowed lace, its glass eyes fixed on me. My parents swore they'd thrown it away, but every time I looked, it was back. The nights grew colder. I'd wake to the sound of footsteps in the hallway, slow, careful, always stopping just outside my door. One evening I couldn't take it anymore. I reached for the handle, my hand shaking, my breath caught in my chest. The door slammed shut. Just as her fingertips grazed the wood, I pressed my back against it, heart pounding, listening to the sound of her nails dragging down the other side. The scratching was slow at first. Deliberate, like she wanted me to know she wasn't in a hurry. Then it changed. Frantic. Claws raking, pounding, the hinges rattling as if the door itself would give way. The air grew colder. My breath fogged in front of me, and from the corner, I saw it. The doll, sitting upright on my desk, the same one I had watched my parents throw away with their own hands. Its glass eyes caught the moonlight, gleaming in the dark, and then its head turned, just slightly, just enough. I stumbled backward, tripping over the bed frame. The moment I hit the mattress, the rocking chair in the corner began to move back and forth, sound that would, creaking, filled the room though no one sat in it. And then slowly, the chair turned to face me. The scratching at the door stopped. Silence. For a moment I thought it was over, but then I heard it, the whisper, a woman's voice, low and broken, seeping from the doll's painted lips. "You shouldn't be here." The lights flickered. When they steadied, the doll was gone. I scanned the room, chest heaving, every corner empty until I felt it, the weight on the bed. I turned slowly. The doll was lying beside me, its porcelain hand resting on my arm. I screamed, threw it across the room. It hit the wall with a crack, its head splitting down the middle, but it didn't shatter. Something black seeped from the fracture, thick, tar-like, crawling down the wall in slow rivulets like the house itself was bleeding. So the smell hit me first. Rot, decay, the same foul stench that had haunted the house since the day we moved in. And then I saw it, through the crack in the doll's face. An eye, not glassed, not painted, a human eye, wet, bloodshot, staring back at me. The door burst open. My parents stood there, faces pale, eyes wide. For a moment I thought I was safe. But then I saw her. The pale woman, standing behind them. Her hands rested on their shoulders, long fingers curling into their skin. They didn't flinch, didn't react. They just stared at me, their mouths opening in unison. "Go back to sleep." Their voices were flat, empty. I shook my head, tears streaming down my face. "She's right there behind you." They didn't move, didn't blink. And then, in perfect unison, they closed the door. The room plunged into darkness. I scrambled for the lamp, and when the light flicked on, the walls were covered. Writing, black scrawl, smeared like blood, over and over the same words. 32 days, 32 days, 32 days. The rocking chair creaked again, and this time she was sitting in it, the pale woman. Her head tilted, eyes nothing but hollow pits, her lips stretched into a grin that split her face too wide. In her arms she cradled the doll, rocking it back and forth, and then she began to sing, a lullaby, soft, broken, each note cracking like old wood. I clamped my hands over my ears. But it didn't matter. The sound wasn't in the air. It was inside my head. The bulb above me, it exploded. Glass rained down, slicing into my skin. I bolted for the window, desperate to escape, but when I pulled the curtains back, I froze. Every window in the house was filled with faces, hale, hollow-eyed, pressed against the glass. Dozens of them, all watching, all smiling. I stumbled back, tripping over something soft. I looked down. It was Daniel, my dog, but his body was moving, his legs twitched, his head jerked, his mouth opened and closed without sound, his eyes, they rolled back, and from his throat came a voice that wasn't his. "Stay." Not a bark, not a growl, a command. Low, final, and in that moment, I knew the house wasn't letting me go. That floorboards groaned beneath me. I looked down and saw hands, grey, skeletal hands, pushing up through the cracks, clawing at my ankles. I kicked free, stumbling toward the door, but it slammed shut before I could reach it. The doll was there again, standing upright in front of the door, its cracked face split wider, the human eye rolling in its socket, and then it spoke. "She wants to dance with you." The rocking chair screeched as it tipped forward. The pale woman rose, her movements jerky, unnatural, like a puppet pulled by invisible strings. She swayed side to side, humming that broken lullaby. And then she lunged. I dove under the bed, heart pounding, the smell of rot suffocating me. The dead dog's body was gone. In its place was something else. A coffin, small, child-sized. The lid creaked open, and inside, I saw myself, my own face, my own body, eyes closed, lips blue. I scrambled out, gasping that the room had changed. The walls were gone. I was standing in a graveyard. The rocking chair sat in the center, the doll perched on it. The pale woman circled me, her bare feet dragged across the dirt, leaving trails of blood. And then the gravestones rose, one after another, surrounding me, each one carved with the same name, mine. Speaking in a dry, soft whisper, the ground swallowed her scream. Smoke poured from her body, twisting, writhing until the shape of her was gone. The graveyard fell silent. The faces in the windows vanished. The rocking chair stood empty, the doll's shattered head, leaking black across the dirt. I thought it was over. I wanted to believe it was over, but the word stayed, burned into me. 32 days. I don't know why she said it. I don't know what it means. When I close my eyes and I still hear her lullaby, and I'm still counting. I woke in my bed. The sun was shining. My parents were downstairs, laughing, cooking breakfast. For a moment, I thought it had been a dream. Until I saw the rocking chair. It was in the corner of my room, and on it sat the doll. Its head was whole again. Its glass eyes gleamed. In its porcelain hand, it held a scrap of paper. I unfolded it with trembling finger. On it, in black scrawl, were 3 words. Day 1. It started so simply. I thought I was doing the right thing. Work kept me late, and the kids, they needed someone to watch them. A neighbor mentioned her, Miss Carver. Said she was dependable, quiet, the kind of woman you could trust without thinking twice. I remember her smile. Soft, grandmotherly, the kind that makes you feel guilty for even doubting her. I wanted to believe it. I needed to. That night, I kissed my kids goodbye. Told them I'd be home before midnight. Lila, she held on to me a little longer than usual. I told myself it was nothing, just nerves. At work, the hours dragged. Then the phone rang. Lila's voice, thin, trembling. Daddy, something's wrong with her. The line crackled. I heard muffled sobs. A door slamming, and then her whisper, sharp, terrified. She's locking us in. My blood turned to ice. I didn't even hang up. I just ran. When I burst through the front door, the house was dark. Too dark. The curtains drawn, the air heavy with something rotten. I called their names. Nothing. Then I heard it. A sound I'll never forget, a low humming, a lullaby, off-key, drifting up from the basement. I crept down the stairs, and there she was, Miss Carver, standing in the glow of a single bulb, her face half in shadow. My children were tied to chairs, duct tape across their mouths, their eyes wide, pleading. And beside them, my youngest, Daniel. He wasn't moving. I saw the blood first, a thin line trickling from his temple, pooling beneath the chair. His head hung at an angle no child should. Miss Carver looked at me and smiled, that same grandmotherly smile. Accidents happen, she whispered, but don't worry, the others will be perfect. I lunged at her, but she was faster than I ever imagined. The scissors flashed in the light, caught me across the arm. I stumbled back, grabbed Lila, tore the tape from her mouth. She screamed, raw, piercing, and in that chaos, Miss Carver slipped away. By the time the police arrived, she was gone, vanished into the night like smoke. They searched, they questioned, but she was clever, too clever. The way she moved, the way she disappeared, it was practiced. And that's what haunts me most, knowing she had done this before, knowing we were never the first. I buried Daniel a week later. The service was quiet, too quiet. And all I could do was replay it in my head, the call, the humming, the way she looked at me, as if she owned us. Nights are the worst, because sometimes when the house is still, I swear I hear it again, that lullaby, faint just beyond the walls. She's still out there, and she hasn't forgotten us. She knows where we live. I tried to go back to work. Tried to give Lila some sense of normalcy. That the house was never the same. Every creak of the floorboards made her flinch. Every shadow sent her into tears. One night I found her in the hallway, standing perfectly still, staring at the front door. "She's out there," she whispered. I told her it was just a nightmare. I wanted to believe it was, but when I pressed my eye to the peephole, I froze. At the edge of the yard, something shifted. A figure, too still, too patient, watching, and in that moment, I knew Lila wasn't imagining it, she was remembering. Weeks passed. The police stopped calling. The neighbors stopped asking questions. Life moved on for everyone else, but not for us. I tried to drown it. Bottles lined the counter, yites blurred together. Sleep never came easy, and when it did, it betrayed me. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him. Daniel, his head hanging, the blood pooling beneath the chair. And always that sound, the lullaby, off-key, hummed just beyond the walls. Like she was still here, waiting. They told me to install the cameras, and I did. Every single corner of that house, every possible angle was covered. But the footage, it never showed anything. Just static, glitches filling the screens, entire hours lost to blackness. And yet Lila, she swore up and down that she saw her. I remember that night, finding her at the window, trembling like a leaf, her voice barely even there as she whispered, "She's waiting. She wants me now." I tried to tell her it wasn't real, but there was this sense in her eyes, this certainty as if she knew something that I could never understand, something that no camera could ever capture. I don't know how to explain what happened next. One evening, I came home from work and found the front door unlocked. My stomach dropped. I called out for Lila, no answer. I tore through the house, every room empty, and then I heard it. The humming, drifting up from the basement. I froze, my legs wouldn't move, my throat closed, and then silence. I forced myself down the stairs. The basement was empty. No Lila, no Miss Carver. Just the chair where Daniel had died, still stained with his blood. I collapsed. When I came to, Lila was standing over me, shaking, pale, alive. "She was here," she whispered. "She said she'll come back for me." That was months ago. We moved, changed our names, tried to disappear, tried to pretend we could start over, but sometimes late at night, I still hear it, that lullaby, faint, off-key, and I can't help but wonder if she's still out there, watching, waiting because she got away, and she knows where to find us.